Good morning. Happy Family Day weekend. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. My name is Audrey Johnman, and I am pleased to be your service leader this morning. I would like to thank today's service team, which includes Ariel Canning, Sandy Lubert, music ministers Rachel Derry, Cindy Carey, Joanne Deere, and Norm Ayerst, religious educator Tim Versteeg, and tech team Monica Bennett, John Elliott, and Bruce McPherson. Our speakers today are Ariel Canning and Sandy Lubert. Ariel Canning grew up in the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. She went on to study social work at Dalhousie and is now the Project Development Officer at Katimavik. She has also been both a participant and a group leader. Ariel lives in Montreal. Sandy Lubert is a member of the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton and is also one of our lay chaplains. She participated in Katimavik in 1982 to 83. She also worked as a regional recruitment officer for the program. Patrick Campbell will now present the land acknowledgement.
We are not the first people on this land, nor will we be the last. We acknowledge our connection to the web of all existence, honoring the past and preparing for the future. The stewardship of the original people who lived here preserved this place for our generation. We seek to be respectful stewards of this place for those who follow. Our goal in this congregation is to extend our hearts in welcome to whomever you may be. We are connected through our desire to live out our ideals of peace, love, and justice for all. We are here to love one another and encourage each other in our spiritual growth. Our congregational mission includes our commitment to nurture one another, serve the community, and inspire action to heal the world.
Our call to worship this morning is a reading from the Trapeze Parable by Denan Perry. Sometimes I feel that my life is a series of trapeze swings. I'm either hanging on to a trapeze bar swinging along, or for a few moments in my life, I'm hurtling across space in between trapeze bars. Most of the time, I spend my life hanging on for dear life to my trapeze bar of the moment. It carries me along at a certain steady rate of swing, and I have the feeling that I'm in control of my life. I know most of the right questions and even some of the answers. But every once in a while, as I'm merrily swinging along, I look out ahead of me into the distance, and what do I see? I see another trapeze bar swinging toward me. It's empty, and I know that this new trapeze bar has my name on it. It is my next step, my growth, my aliveness coming to get me. In my heart of hearts, I know that for me to grow, I must release my grip on this present, well-known bar and move on to the new one. Each time it happens to me, I hope that I won't have to let go of my old bar completely before I grab the new one. But I know that I must totally release my grasp on my old bar and hurtle across space before I can grab onto the new bar. Each time, I am filled with terror. It doesn't matter that in all my previous hurdles across the void of unknowing, I have always made it. Each time, I am afraid that I will miss, that I will be crushed on unseen rocks in the bottomless chasm between bars. I do it anyway. Perhaps this is the essence of what the mystics call the faith experience. No guarantees, no net, no insurance policy. But you do it anyway, because to keep hanging on to that old bar is no longer an alternative. It's called transition. I have come to believe that this transition is the only place that real change occurs. I mean real change, not the pseudo change that only lasts until the next time my old buttons get punched. I have noticed that in our culture, this transition zone is looked upon as a no thing, a no place between places. Sure, the old trapeze bar was real, and that new one coming towards me, I hope that's real too. But the void in between, is that just a scary, confusing, disorienting nowhere that must be gotten through as fast and as unconsciously as possible? No. What a wasted opportunity that would be. I have a sneaking suspicion that the transition zone is real, and the bars are illusions we dream up to avoid real change, real growth. Whether or not my hunch is true, It remains that the transition zones in our lives are incredibly rich places. They should be honored, even savored. Yes, with all the pain and fear and feelings of being out of control that can accompany transitions, they are still the most alive, most growth-filled, passionate, expansive moments in our lives. So, transformation of fear may have nothing to do with making fear go away, but rather with giving ourselves permission to hang out in the transition between trapezes. Transforming our need to grab that new bar, any bar, is allowing ourselves to dwell in the only place where real change happens. It can be terrifying. It also can be enlightening in the true sense of the word. Hurtling through the void, we may just learn how to fly. Our chalice represents the light of hope at the center of our faith tradition. The spark of this flame draws us into our time of worship and community. Please join me in reciting our chalice lighting words. May this flame be our light of friendship and love. Our opening hymn is hymn number 108, Our Life Flows On.
Number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far-off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Continuing to celebrate Black History Month this morning, our story for all ages is about one of the greatest jazz musicians ever, John Coltrane. This book I'm about to read received a Coretta Scott King Award in 2008. The story about his early life also weaves well into our monthly worship theme of transitions. The story is entitled Before John Was a Jazz Giant, words by Carol Boston Weatherford and illustrated by Sean Qualls. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard ham bones knocking in grandma's pots, daddy strumming the ukulele, and mama cranking the phonograph. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard steam engines whistling past, Cousin Mary giggling at jitterbuggers, and Bojangles tap dancing in the picture show. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard Grandpa's Sunday sermons, Mama playing hymns for the senior choir, and the Scoutmaster's call to join a band. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard birds warbling at sunrise, the sobs of kinfolk at family funerals, and cheers as he marched in parades. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard big bands on the radio and a saxophone's soulful solo, blue notes crooning his name. Before John was a jazz giant, he picked up that horn, blew into the mouthpiece, pressed his fingers on the keys, and breathed every sound he'd ever known into a bold new song. Before John was a jazz giant, he was all ears. That's the end of our story this morning.
In these moments of contemplation, I invite you to relax, close your eyes if you like, and breathe deeply. Following our reading, there will be a few moments of silence, followed by music. This morning's reading is number 480 from our blue hymnal. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love.
I open my breath to the circle of life. I open my heart to the wonder of love. I open my mind to the challenge of living and open my eyes to light. I open my breath to the circle of life. I open my heart to the wonder of love. I open my mind to the challenge of living and open my eyes to the light. I open my breath to the circle of life. I open my heart to the wonder of love. I open my mind to the challenge of living and open my eyes to the light. I open my breath to the circle of life. I open my heart to the wonder of love. I open my mind to the challenge of living and open my eyes to the light. I open my breath to the circle of life. I open my heart to the wonder of love. I open my mind to the challenge of living and open my eyes to the light. And open my eyes to the light. I open my eyes to the light.
Today's service is on the theme of transition, something I, as have so many people, become familiar with throughout my life. Although transition is an internal experience, it is often inspired through our environment. The more one launches themselves into new experiences, the more likely they are to be challenged and to be transformed. In looking at the theme of transition and transformation, I would like to share with you some reflections on my time with an organization that's close to my heart. Katimavik is a national youth empowerment organization that has been developing diverse youth as engaged, caring citizens and capable contributors for a better Canada since 1977. The national experience, Katimavik's flagship program, offers the opportunity for groups of 11 youth, ages 17 to 25, to travel to 2 diverse Canadian communities, volunteer, learn about and engage in truth and reconciliation, and develop competencies in employability, self-determination, and civic engagement. Their independent living skills grow as they, in turn, stay home with another participant to manage the house and prepare meals, whole foods only, navigating different dietary restrictions and food sensitivities. As participants share common spaces and even rooms while working together towards a common goal, naturally conflict and occasional chaos arises as a result. This chaos can come in many forms, and so can moments of transition and experiences of transformation. I intend to highlight some of my experiences with the organization and how moments of transition brought about transformation in myself, the youth I have worked with, and our project communities. Transition happens when feeling connected with community. As a project leader in Nogojiwenang, more widely known as Peterborough, there was a group who was struggling with their community action project, the final project intended to serve local Indigenous communities and organizations. They were creating signs of hope for the community and were feeling frustrated by legal restrictions and the all too common unequal distribution of the workload. When we delivered their signs of hope to the local Friendship Center, this quickly diminished with a delighted surprise from the staff, who was generous with her praise of the program and participants. These signs can be found in a few organizations in the city and even a local pizza shop whose owner the group befriended. Transition may arise as a result of being overwhelmed. Many times as a project leader, I have seen groups' hopelessness. Sometimes I almost allowed it to overcome me too. The feeling of there's no moving forward from here nearly encapsulated us all. In navigating through these dark, murky waters, we came out stronger as individuals and them as a collective, ready to take on challenges ahead. Transition may arrive in times we feel connected with each other. At the end of my second rotation in Halifax, when I was a participant 12 years ago, my Katimavik group prepared a final presentation to perform in front of some other groups. We chose to sing the song Hallelujah, some of us telling stories and learnings from the rotations during the refrains, while others painted a beautiful tree behind us. Despite any underlying tensions, we felt connected in that moment with each other and the individuals there to witness it, who hadn't been in the experience themselves, but in their own way, understood. Transition and transformation can happen when we open ourselves to new ideas, or even the possibility of them. One of the more challenging aspects of the program is living with others who have had such diverse experiences. In one particular group I supported, experiences of oppression and marginalization were in conflict with those of being taught to reinforce cultural stereotypes, to reject the unfamiliar. Once, when as a project leader I was on the periphery of the group's Truth and Reconciliation Learning Day, I checked in to find 2 youth at opposing ends of this tension, expressing a desire to accomplish 2-eyed seeing, and they made this hand signal. which is seeing with the strengths of both Indigenous and Western knowledge and ways of knowing. Transition happens in times we feel connected with nature or the universe. Such a moment occurred for me when, as a participant, my group went on an excursion to Cape Breton Island during our rotation in Halifax. On the way back from volunteering at the East Coast Music Awards, we drove along the Cabot Trail, and one of our group mates spotted a path he wanted to follow. A few of us traveled amongst an icicle-surrounded path and found ourselves suddenly in a big open field of snow. With a cliff on the other side, which fell directly into the ocean. When we reached the edge, all we could see was deep blue in front of us, the sky indistinguishable from the ocean. I can directly point to this moment as that in which I chose to return to Nova Scotia for my social work degree, launching me into life ahead. For youth between the ages of 17 to 25 who are seeking to be unsettled, challenged, and inspired, who seek to put into action our UU principles, who are in transition and want to know how to promote transformation in themselves. Applications for Kitimovic's national experience starting in July 2022 and January and July 2023 are now being accepted. Visit www.kitimovic.org for more information.
It's hard for me to identify specific periods of transition in my life because for me, life is transition, just one after another, all wrapped up in each other. The only constant, as they say, is change. I think transitions are like bridges. How and why we change as we cross any given bridge depends so much on who we meet along the way. I will always be grateful for Kitimovic, for the people, places, and experiences it brought to me as I crossed over from childhood to adulthood. It launched me solidly into the principle of spiritual growth. I've always been a seeker. In my teens, I became increasingly aware of and uncomfortable with my small East Oakville world. I knew there was more and I yearned for it. I did a student exchange in high school, and then as an 18-year-old, I joined Kitimovic, Canada's youth volunteer program, the brainchild of social activist Jacques Hébert, funded by Pierre Trudeau's federal government. Kitimovic is an Inuktitut word that means meeting place. For 9 months, I lived communally in a group composed of roughly one participant from each province. We volunteered across the country, spending 3 months in 3 different provinces, earning $1 a day, taking turns cooking, and committing to individual learning objectives. Kitimovic became the bridge between my teens and 20s. How lucky I am to have had such a fabulous bridge. I lived in Montreal, Newfoundland, and rural Saskatchewan, and I learned so much from this travel. But the most profound growth from this period in my life definitely came from the people I met. There were 2 Francophones in my Kitimovic group. At first, I was the only one who had even a little of both languages at my disposal, so I became the translator. And before those first 3 months were over, I was pretty much fluently bilingual. I fell in love with French Canada living in Quebec, with Quebecois. I became better at understanding the linguistic and political realities of being a minority culture in Canada. After Kitimovic, I never looked at equity or the French-English dynamic the same way. Living with someone from a farm in Saskatchewan helped me learn about rural life. She was not worldly. Some of the rest of us thought we weren't, and sadly, we did not immediately recognize her inherent worth and dignity. She taught me about respect. Chris from BC was queer, but solidly in the closet. He became my best Kitimovic friend. Living with him was joyful, confusing, and in hindsight, a heartbreaking example of not being able to live one's truth. The happy news is that Chris is now married to a wonderful guy. And side note, life lessons about being queer but in the closet would become important later in my life. But I'll save that for another Sunday. Andre was creative in ways I'd never seen and went on to have a brilliant career as an artist. Joanne was quiet but so wise. She had a twin sister back in Winnipeg, and I found that fascinating. She, Joanne, not her sister, fell in love with Andre. I realize now that my roommate Sharon had undiagnosed PTSD from childhood abuse. But there was a lot of falling in love in Katimavik. I had fallen in love with Montreal, and then I fell in love with Newfoundland. This Mainlander couldn't get enough of the rock. What a beautiful, phenomenally rich cultural experience. And yes, I am completely obsessed with Come From Away. In Labrador, I was introduced to skidoos, fresh salmon, smoked salmon, oh my God, a humor unlike any other, and on my 19th birthday, I had my first experience with chamber pots. Again, I'll save it for another Sunday. And lest you think I'm a hopeless romantic, let me reassure you that I did not fall in love with Saskatchewan. Please don't hate me. The prairies have their charm. I just did not find it while I was there. Work projects were an important part of those 9 months too. I helped convert an old school into a recreation center. In Newfoundland, I helped teach phys ed, and in Saskatchewan, I worked at a nursing home where I met my other Katimavik best friend, Monsieur Richard, who was 85 years old. After I finished the program, Monsieur Richard also became my travel companion. I picked him up at the nursing home in Saskatchewan, and we drove to BC together in my Volkswagen Bug. True story. What a fabulous, expansive bridge all of this became for me. What a delight for a seeking soul. I feel so fortunate to have had this foundational experience as I entered my 20s. It introduced me to coexisting and world community. It broadened my horizons and sent me into one discomfort zone after another. Katimavik made me stronger and better. It set the stage for my interest in diversity, social justice, and advocacy work. It changed my life.
Thank you, Sandy and Ariel. We will now be singing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
The following words are from Ivy Baker Priest. The world is round, and the place which may seem like the end may also only be the beginning. We will now listen to our postlude from Norm Ayerst.